Sacrificial love is not something that we hear a lot of, but we really should talk more about what is sacrificial love. There's no greater example than what Jesus did on the cross. In John 3:16, it said, "For God so loved the world that he even gave his dearly beloved Son, that whoever believes in him will not die, but will have everlasting life." Jesus laid down his life so that we would have life. If we look at the Gospel of John chapter 15, in verse 13, it says, "There's no greater love than sacrificial love, which is to lay our lives down for others." In Matthew chapter 6, verse 31 through 33, Jesus said, "Don't worry about what you'll eat or what you'll wear or how you'll clothe yourselves. Even pagans worry about those kinds of things. But your Father in heaven already knows what all your needs are. Seek first the kingdom of heaven and his righteousness, and all these things will be taken care of." When I think about that, I think about the fork in the road that I came to when I came back from Montana, which I talked about in previous videos. I was concerned about what would I do? How would I pay for things? How would I pay for the cost of living? I started praying again. Lord, I need a job. I need a way to be able to pay for these things, because I'm now, after following you passionately for a few years, my savings have been depleted. And so I started really praying, and I was very concerned. Could I take these scripture verses literally or figuratively, or how was I supposed to interpret what chapter 6 in Matthew really means? And while I was praying about that, I got a phone call from somebody I haven't heard about in years. His name is Kirk Massey, and I hadn't talked to him probably in at least 10 years. A long time ago, he used to work as a college student for me as his sales manager in a summer sales program. And so while I was praying here about money and jobs and what do I do to take care of my basic necessities of living, all of a sudden the phone rings, and it was Kirk, and he said, "Hey, I hear you're available." And he said, "I'd like to hire you to come work for me." He said, "I own a medical company, and we sell these medical devices called the Matrix." I kid you not, it was called the Matrix unit. He said it's an electrostimulation soft tissue mobilization unit, costs $40,000, and we sell this to doctors that enables them to do physical rehab for people. Rather than just writing a pain medication script and sending their patients somewhere else to get physical therapy, now they can do it in-house as another revenue source. And so I said, "Well, Kirk, tell me all about it. I mean, where do I office out of? How much money can I make? How much vacation do I get per year?" I was asking him these basic questions, but the interesting thing about it is that these questions were the same questions that were brought up a few years before that when I met with a counselor who asked me, when I was working for a legal publisher, she asked me, "What would it take for you to quit your job? What would a perfect job look like?" And here I found myself a couple of years later answering that question. And what would the perfect job look like? And now I found that Kirk Massey was here presenting me with the perfect job opportunity. I could be my own boss. I could take off whenever I wanted. I could take fancy trips around the world. I could make six figures. I mean, it checked every box that I had checked off earlier when I was asked that same question from a counselor. And so I also found out from Kirk that there's a guy named Clint Fowler that I knew from a while back that was actually working for Kirk, and he was making six figures, and he could verify everything that Kirk was telling me. And so it was the perfect job. God opened this door up for me to be able to walk through. What an amazing, amazing God that we serve. And so I said yes. And after praying about it, and I took the job, and he sent me a little sales talk. He said, "Memorize this. And as soon as you memorize this basic script on how to present this to doctor's offices," he said, "I'll come down, I'll bring a demo unit with me, and I'll teach you how to sell it." So a few weeks later, Kirk Massey came down. I had set up 2 appointments with 2 different doctors' offices, and out of the 2, we sold one of them. And we made $5,000 commission, which we split in half, which was $2,500 for me. And so as he presented this thing, it was great for the doctors. It was great for me. All of a sudden, this door had opened up for me to make money again. And so the next week I went out, I set up 2 appointments. I sold both of them. I made $10,000 profit. I was amazed. I was amazed. On Friday, I was in my office, I'll never forget, and I had worship music on, and I was worshiping the Lord in spirit and in truth, and I was praising Him, and tears were coming down my cheeks, and I was thanking God for not only giving me the ability to make money again, which I was always really good at making a lot of money, but now I'm a Christian. Now I have a solid foundation underneath me that I didn't have before when I used to make a lot of money. But my life was good. It was filled with meaning and purpose. And I was praising God and worshiping and thanking Him now for this door that He'd opened up for me. And then the Lord spoke a thought impression into my mind that nearly broke my heart in two. What the Lord whispered into my thoughts, which were very clear. I had that knowing that this is God that's speaking to me now, was you can do this if you want, and you can make money. I've given you the ability to do that before. You can either go through this door and do that, or you can pack up your demo unit this afternoon and send your demo unit back to Kirk Massey and continue to follow me. Suddenly, my heart was shattered. I had a major choice to make. I found myself back at that scripture verse, that fork in the road that I had faced earlier, which is Matthew chapter 6. Would God provide for all of my needs if I packed up this demo unit and shipped it back? That was a very difficult choice that now I suddenly needed to make. But thankfully, God had known how difficult it would be for me, and He had taken care of that arrangement as well, because Dickie Simpson, who I mentioned earlier, was now staying with me because he had a sciatic nerve problem, and he was having back problems, and he was in between jobs, and so he was staying with me. And after God had shared this with me about packing up my demo unit and shipping it back, I went down and I talked to Dickie, and I said, Dickie, this is what happened. I said, I made $10,000 this week. I said, I've been treating you with this matrix unit, and it's been helping you. He was getting better using it. I believed in the matrix unit, this electrostimulation, soft tissue mobilization unit we were selling doctors. But I presented it to Dickie. What do? I've got this opportunity here to make tons of money again. And thankfully, Dickie said, you need to do what you believe God is asking you to do. He said, if you believe that God is inviting you to continue to follow Him, you need to pack up your demo unit this afternoon. He said, I'll help you, and you can ship it back. I did pack up the matrix unit and shipped it back that afternoon. That was a difficult choice, though. It was a very difficult choice. Perhaps one of the most difficult choices that I've ever had to face. I'd like to tell you that the next couple of years were really easy, and God confirmed that that was the right choice, but it was not the right choice. I'm sorry, it was the right choice. It was a difficult choice. It was difficult because I didn't understand at that point the sanctification process that God brings us through. When He takes our mind, our will, and our emotions, and He sanctifies them, He molds and shapes those into His image, His thoughts, His perspective. It was difficult those next couple of years, but it was also some of the greatest years of my life. When I look back now, many years from then, and I look back now at that decision, I know without any shadow of a doubt that I made the right decision. Because this life is temporary. But the life that I'm in pursuit of, where I'm heading, is eternal. Everything we do now will be rewarded later. I made the right choice. I chose the path that God was leading me on, which is the narrow path that very few people find. and even few are following.